You're listening to Cinematic Adventures, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
Good morning, Vietnam!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Badges? We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
You make me want to be a better man.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
He's looking at you, kid.
I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Would you be shocked if I put on something more comfortable?
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Adventures. If you're listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and basically anywhere you listen to your podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul, and with me in the studio today is Sean. Sean, how are you today?
I'm good, Paul. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's almost like you're a nice guy.
I have my moments.
There was that one time. And surprise guest.
Sneak surprise guest?
I panicked in my intro. Thank you, Sean, for immediately calling me out.
It's not a call out, just,
we do have a sneaking surprise guest. I'm going to make it a thing. So
Was the surprise guest just sneaking?
Yes, snuck in here. Is not even wearing shoes. And from Multiverse Fan Cast, we have Rob. Rob,
Hi,
how are
everyone.
you today?
I'm saddened that I didn't get quite the same intro that Melanie gets when she's on the show, and she gets the whole
the
echo.
Music and,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I am happy to be here, and I'll try and be not so sneaky.
All right. Well, just because you brought it up, and called me out. Now making his debut on Cinematic Adventures, from the Multiverse Fan Cast, we have Rob.
Woo!
I knew you were going to be loud,
epic.
So I turned the echo on before you could jump in.
I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to echo in there with you.
Who knew I just had a button I can do things with?
All right.
But,
well, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm thrilled that you guys invited me onto your podcast. I'm sorry I didn't make it onto the other one, but I was not in the area.
Yeah, it's really upsetting when one of your co-hosts has to recover from Key West. What were you there for, like 2 weeks or something? Jeez. Something like that. Man, I was wondering what was wrong with you, and then I realized you were just tan, and I'm very unfamiliar with that process. It's white or red for me at this point. But
mostly red.
Casper or the Friendly Lobster. Yeah, those are my two options. Either way, I'm a friendly guy. But we are very excited to be here today because we are talking a movie that has long been in development, long delayed, and just an exciting time for us to get back to the movies and back to big budget Marvel. And we are talking today 2021's Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson. Yes, Scarlett Johansson.
Johansson.
Of Home Alone 3 fame. If you guys are, deep cut right there. Deep cut. But so
flashback.
I know,
right?
I know her from Ghost World. I think that was the first thing I ever saw.
Oh my
her
God,
in, yeah.
Ghost World. That's like saying I know Jessica Alba from Punks.
Wow.
I don't even, what is Punks?
Punks was like
Disney Channel original movie.
Oh my God, was it?
It was so bad, Henry Winkler was the bad guy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I remember that movie.
Oh yeah, such a classic.
That was good.
I have it on VHS.
I really thought you were going to say you had it on DVD. I was just about to say, wow.
I am not that legendary, but I'm up there. But so we're going to break it down into two parts. The first half of the episode is going to be a discussion about Black Widow, kind of a character study on her, where she started in the MCU, how far she's come, how she's different from her comic counterpart. So that's going to be a fun and interesting start to the show. We will take a commercial break, and then when we come back, we are going to dive right into Black Widow, the movie, and with spoilers, so we'll make sure that you guys have your spoiler warning beforehand. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, which according to box office numbers, there's a fair chance that you probably did, whether it was at a theater like myself and Sean, or in the comfort of your home like Rob and his family. Mm-hmm. So really quick, we discussed it on Multiverse Fan Cast. I'd love to hear both your thoughts. We kind of talked off air about it. We're in this new age where brand new movies are coming out, not only in theaters, but also streaming. Is that going to be the cultural norm, and do you want it to be? Let's start, Sean. How do you feel about having the option to do both, and do you think that that's, once COVID's over, should they still continue to do that?
I guess I'll take this in two parts. One,
Almost
depends on
two
what
questions.
streamer you have, because if it's Disney Plus, they're charging you $30 a viewing. HBO Max,
not a viewing.
oh, it's like $30 and you buy it.
And you have it,
And you
yeah.
have it. I'm sorry, yeah. But HBO Max, as long as you have the subscription,
Right.
the only movie that they no, they haven't had any upcharge on any of their
But
movies.
now for HBO Max now, if you have to have the no ad version for the new movies. The
I didn't even know there was an
I
ad
didn't
version
either,
for
They
HBO Max.
just they just released a lower priced ad version.
Okay, because when I first signed up for HBO Max, there was no option for that. It was the one option,
me
and then
Well, when I
So,
did
like-
HBO Max, I had DC Universe at the time too, so I got like I paid half for it.
Yeah.
But then once I canceled DC Universe, I got the regular price. I think it's like what, $14 a month?
something like that.
Yeah, it's not breaking the bank.
No, and the HBO Max one is it $15? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it is
something
$15.
like that.
And Disney's not much either.
No, Disney was like, I think Disney's like $12.99.
Yeah, something around the same same
because
level.
they had
And there's-
the big bundle when it first came out. You get Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu for like
Yeah.
$13, but I don't think they're offering that.
And there's
anymore.
specials out there. Like I actually just got an email right before the show from Amazon that said, "Oh, because of your purchase, we're offering you 6 free months
I
of
got that
Disney
too.
Plus."
I got that
So
too.
there's lots of offers out there.
Oh, that's weird.
But to go back to your original question, do I think it's the norm? No, I think we're still, we're getting better. There's still, it's going to continue throughout, I think, the rest of this year. I'm hoping by 2022 we'll be back mostly to normal where, movies are going to come straight to theaters. But there's also a part of me that's like, there's some people that just don't like going to a movie theater. And this gives them a second option.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like to deep dive into how much does a movie, lose in terms of money going to these streamers.
Yeah.
That might be the negative in all of this. The people who make the movie, are they getting screwed here by, it not being in a movie theater? The movie theaters are getting screwed.
Yeah, because movie theaters make their money from sales, the concession stuff.
They're big on the concessions. I mean, yes, and once a movie's been out for a longer time, then they'll make a bigger percentage out of the ticket. But when the movie first comes out, I think they only get like 15% of the ticket price, and
I
then
think even 10. Like
maybe
something ridiculous.
it's crazy because again they survive on their concessions.
Yeah.
So, I hope we go back to the normal of it just coming straight to movies, but I understand that if they do continue the whole, we're going to release it to both mediums, you have an option.
Yeah. I mean, for us, Sean and I have been to 2 different movie theaters. We've been to one in Connecticut and one in New York where we live. In Connecticut, all their regulations are gone. No space seatings, no mask mandates, no signs, no nothing. The theater we went to in New York still had a couple of signs up, just wearing your mask. Like in the bathrooms, they had signs still up.
I didn't even notice that.
It was a superhero sign, so I noticed it immediately.
Of course.
Like, wear your mask like these heroes. And then all the employees still had to wear their masks and stuff like that. And there were a couple of people in our theater that were wearing masks.
Are you required to wear it in the theater?
There were no signs, and nobody
they didn't
said
tell
anything
us
to us. Because we always bring masks with us, because if we go into a place and they say you have to wear your mask, guess what? We got to wear a mask. That's the way it goes. But just like I have to wear pants in public. Weird.
And we're thankful that you do.
You're not, but that's not the point. I have very muscular thighs. But it's a weird time because we've been in, when we first went to go see Wonder Woman, the theater was on complete lockdown. Like, you had to wear your mask the whole time. There were no food or concessions available. Seatings were not only assigned, but also seats
Once
that
you
weren't-
picked your seat, there was like a 3-seat gap between your seat and then the next available seat.
Yeah. So it was an interesting time to go to movies, and we went to go see Wonder Woman, so it was just worse. But that made that movie, which has only gotten worse over time with me. Mm-hmm. That whole experience made it even worse, which sucks. Now, Rob, you watched it at home with your family, and as a dad with son, wife, dogs, and a fish tank that had no fish in it that I helped you move. What do you think about the current state of movies, and if this is going to be the norm, and if you want it to be the norm?
I was encouraged by the numbers that came out this weekend with total domestic gross of 140 million. Oh, excuse me, sorry. And seeing that, and that was rare that they released figures for at-home purchases. Like most of these, Netflix and everyone, they don't usually release that stuff. So I think they're doing it to try and make the case that this should be the new norm, and I'm encouraged by that because I kind of like it. I prefer and some of it has to do with an at-home theater setting. Like we have a nice room with a 65-inch television to it and everything, so we feel like it's a pretty immersive experience. We have surround sound, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. There are some things, yes, I'd like to watch in a theater. So I'm hoping that what we saw with the Black Widow release, that becomes the norm. Because I like the choice. I have not been back to a theater yet. And, it was nice that for the three of us, we spent $30 to see this movie. And I brought my own food. I had my own snacks and drinks, alcoholic if I wanted it to be, which I didn't, but I could. And it was nice to have that freedom, whereas, I'm not paying $5 for a Hershey bar. I feel like concessions, as great as they are sometimes, they're not that great, let's face it. There's nothing like, unless you're going to like an Alamo Draft House or something, the food is not going to be that good. But that's part of the experience. That's, I know when I'm getting nachos and cheese, they're going to be crappy, but I still enjoy it.
AMC Danbury actually has surprisingly good fried foods. I like the mozzarella sticks. They were really good. Very strange.
They have... if you ever look at it too, they post all of their calorie counts on it too, and they have a Bavarian pretzel there. It's this huge pretzel, and I think it's like 4,000 calories for this thing.
But I agree with you. Like Alamo Draft House, that is the standard when it comes to getting food while you're watching a movie.
So for us, like when we went to go see Fast 9, which listen to our review to hear our incredible thoughts on cars in space, but we got my wife and I and producer Melanie got a bundle there of food. So it was like $25-$30. Got a large popcorn with free refills. We each got a drink. I got a water, she got a Slurpee, and 2 things of candy. So like it was expensive, yeah, but like it was fun for us. Like that's the whole thing. And I get what Rob's saying, because when we watched the Snyder Cut all together, there was a certain benefit to being home, especially for a long movie.
We got to stop it.
Yeah,
anyone who needed to go to the bathroom, we'll pause it.
We got to have a few drinks. We ordered pizza. Like we made it a whole
There's
event.
Not someone talking next to me. There's not, as you guys were complaining with your Black Widow experience, there was a guy that you said he sat right in front of the projector.
He sat literally a seat between me and him when literally the theater was 98% empty.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about awful smells in the theater. I don't have to worry, is it too loud or too soft? Is the picture fuzzy? Are the curtains on the side too far in and they're cutting off part of the screen? I can adjust all those things at home, and it's a controlled viewing experience at home.
Very true. I do think that some movies benefit from the in-theater experience. Like we went to go see Godzilla vs. Kong, which is definitely designed to be watched on a giant screen with giant monsters. I'll always say Avatar. When we went to go see Avatar in the original IMAX theater, like you remember that, Sean?
Oh yeah,
like that
the
was
old Palisades Mall IMAX. That was.
I think I saw it there too, actually.
Yeah. And that was what that movie was designed to.
Yeah.
How it was designed to be seen. So it's really also.
I agree with you. I agree with both of you. I mean, there's points in both directions, and again, it's the preference is what you want. I was against people, bashing Disney back when Mulan was the first one.
Oh, people
everybody was freaking out like, oh, I'm not going to pay $30 to go see Mulan, and I just kept saying to myself, I said, listen. Okay, if you have a family and you go to the movie theater, you're spending $15 a ticket. So right there, if you have more than 2 people, you're already spending more money than you would at home.
I think it was just jarring for people to.
I agree, and it was also Mulan. I mean, it was.
Well, if you have young daughters, which I don't, that was like a staple in your house that everyone, purchased it.
The original Mulan, not the new one. I've not heard good things.
And also, with going to a theater, you also end up, if you have kids, you end up buying the commemorative buckets. I have so many. You've got one here.
I think I have the Avengers Endgame one. And I think we have one. We have a Wonder Woman one upstairs.
We have every single commemorative bucket in our house. I also have, and we got this from Danbury AMC, when The Force Awakens. No, the third one. What was the third one?
the bad one.
Well, which one wasn't the bad one?
I know. The Last Jedi. No.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Thank you.
It's bad.
I couldn't come up with the title.
I haven't watched it in its entirety since it came out.
When we went and saw that, we purchased this. I now have it. It was, I think, $50. It's about a 2.5 foot tall R2D2 drink container that you could put the snack like in the back, and we still have it at our house. I love it. I paid a ton of money for it, but you don't have that temptation when you're going there. If you're
you don't have that good time when you're going there.
I mean, yes,
you're staying home.
There are some films, like I will say that if I saw Endgame at home, I would have felt like I missed out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just breaking down just the ending scene.
Yeah, there's a thrill to that. There's also something to be said about seeing, say, like a comedy with a group of people. If you're laughing alone in a room, it's not quite the same as laughing with like 50 people. Like it's an enjoyable time. So I get it.
Yeah,
and it's also, I'm sorry to jump in, but
the
whole argument I've kind of compared to the whole sports argument. How, people don't want to go and spend money to go to a baseball game or to a football game. I'd just rather watch it at home. It's a little different because most of the time you're watching it for free at home, but
I never thought
it's that whole aspect of just some people just don't want to just stay at home and be more comfortable and all that, but it's kind of close to that.
I am hoping they keep this, we have the choice.
I agree. I mean, again, who's it going to hurt? That's my
theaters.
It's just the theaters. I think are the ones that are going to get hurt.
I am glad they got $80 million this weekend, so that way
that's a big number.
Can survive.
You're gonna get those people who are going to go to the theater, and you're going to get the people who are still not ready to go to a theater, or some people who just have decided, you know what? Now that I have this option, it's just not worth it.
I will say also, I like the fact that I can rewatch Black Widow now as much as I want.
That's very true.
I own it.
It's very true.
Well,
because now you don't have to
quote unquote own it.
As long as you have a subscription to.
Do you want to?
As long as you have a subscription
to
Disney
that.
Plus.
But, all right, so that's gonna wrap up our intro. I thought that'd be a fun way to kind of start it. So let's talk the actual character of Black Widow. In the comics, introduced in the 1960s as a bad guy, not a hero, not a good guy. In fact, the first female of the Avengers was actually the Wasp, which is ironic.
She's the founder of the
She
Avengers,
is one of the founders, including Hank Pym at the time. Yep. But also ironic considering she was the first Marvel character to have her name in the title of the movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was a big thing at the time. So Black Widow was she was an assassin. She was a murderer, a mercenary, agent for hire.
Anti-hero.
Not even anti-hero. She was a bad guy. She killed people for a living. Like there was no redeemable sort of notion. In the comics more recently, especially with the success of Black Widow in the MCU, they've altered her slightly, but she wasn't necessarily a good person when she started, which they do mirror in these films. First appearance of Natasha Romanoff was Iron Man 2. Now, that's a movie that if you've listened to the Multiverse Fan Cast or even listened to us here, we have mentioned that Iron Man 2 is not one of the better MCU movies.
Yeah. It's got good parts.
It's got good parts, and when we talk about the actual Black Widow movie, we're going to discuss the parallels and what they could have done better, worse, or just...
It's a typical Marvel discussion.
A typical Marvel discussion. But, Sean, thoughts on Natasha Romanoff in Iron Man 2?
Oh, I feel like the character's so much different than what she's become since her first appearance. I mean, obviously looks were the first. I mean, she has the long curly hair. Yeah. She's never had that appearance again. There wasn't much known about her in that movie. She just was kind of, I wouldn't say forced into that movie, but it was just kind of a way to introduce the character and get people to, remember her for Avengers. Because as I recall, she didn't really have that huge of a storyline in that movie. She was just kind of
a spy for Nick Fury.
She was a spy for Nick Fury.
Now, it's funny because if you watch the original trailer for Iron Man 2, you do see her in her S.H.I.E.L.D. outfit, but all the S.H.I.E.L.D. logos were taken off so that people wouldn't guess who she actually was, because she was Natalie Rushman was the name of her character in the movie. So there has been discussion about it. Oh, my computer's excited. But there's been discussion about a certain scene in Iron Man 2 that is not aged particularly well. There's the scene where they first introduce her, and Tony starts talking about her in a sleazier, Iron Man 2 Tony level, where I think it was Kevin Feige came out. He's like, yeah, I really wish we didn't have that scene in that movie.
Yeah, she's objectified.
Where not even that she's objectified, because like there are photos of her from her modeling shoot, because apparently Russian spies have time, and he makes the comment about wanting to hire her, and Pepper's like, she's a potentially very expensive sexual harassment lawsuit, and especially in today's more woke times, it did not look good for Tony, and especially when he says, "I want one." Yeah, but
oh boy,
Rob, what do you think about Natasha in Iron Man 2?
I will tell you that the majority of my memories of her in that is that hallway fight scene where she's introduced, and she's so badass in that. And so, like, I have nothing but good memories, because I have to say that's, I think, the only thing I remember from her in Iron Man 2. I don't really remember much else. And so it was a good kick-ass way to introduce her and show her just how awesome she can be and everything. She was kind of two-dimensional, I remember at the time, and she's developed depth, obviously, over the course of, the past 24 movies. Mm-hmm. But
that's crazy, right?
It's good for Feige and company. So, yeah, it was a good introduction, but there was nothing particularly memorable about it other than a few good fight moments.
Yeah, the hallway fight scene is probably one of the most memorable. I'd even argue it's one of the most memorable MCU, especially Phase 1 action set pieces. I'd say it's more memorable than the actual ending fight scene of Iron Man 2.
I don't even remember the ending fight scene in Iron Man 2, so there you go.
When Tony and Rhodey are in that lower platform, and they're like, no, you go stand up there because I'm the big gun. And then all the drones drop in, and they both drop their helmets in a really cool motion.
None of this is ringing
Kill
a
the
bell.
drones, and then Vanko shows up in his own suit.
That's Mickey Rourke, right?
Mickey Rourke.
Okay.
And they end up using the dual hand blast to defeat him.
None of this rings a bell.
Exactly.
I literally, during the pandemic, watched Iron Man 2 for the first time since seeing it in theaters, so...
Yeah,
it's
just...
Yeah,
it's not...
The one thing about Iron Man is the first movie was great, and then the second two just... they couldn't recapture that.
I will defend Iron Man 3 to the death.
Really?
Oh my god! Yes.
Well, I didn't have a problem with Iron Man 3. I'm actually one of the few people that laughed at the whole Ben Kingsley.
Can we not talk about twists quite yet? Because I have some thoughts on some Marvel twists.
And you know this. I'm a huge Shane Black fan. And so
I
Iron Man
Shane
3
Black.
hit all the right moments for me.
It's a good Christmas movie.
Yeah, I love that juxtaposition.
Like how Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Like he does that with even Predator. I think has some Christmas stuff.
I think
in it
so.
Too.
Yeah.
He loves doing. Last Boy Scout has some Christmas stuff in it.
But let's keep moving on because we got a lot to talk about. Now, the next time we see Natasha is in the Avengers film.
Yep.
Where you get to see a little bit more of her spycraft. The scene where she tricks Loki into revealing his plan is still iconic, and I really enjoy her and Clint Barton. Now, we have this thought that, they were told that they have a very long history, including the first mentions of Budapest. Pest?
I'm not doing this.
You're not doing that? No, you're not going to... Yeah, well, that's why you're the guest host, because you're not doing the bits. But, Sean, what did you think of Natasha in Avengers? Anything that stands out to you?
I loved her opening scene when she's being, you think she's being tortured or interrogated, and, she gets on the phone with Coulson, and she's like, I was just about to get whatever I needed out of this moron. And he's just like, wait, what? And then she just goes full on and just destroys the three of them. And
Coulson on the phone on the other end, just like...
Pretty much. So, like, the other characters, I mean, I thought Avengers, except for, as we all know, Hawkeye got the short end of the stick in the Avengers movie, but all the other characters I thought were equally well done, and I thought she had a little more to do. In my opinion, though, the character really didn't hit her stride until the next movie, which we will get to after everyone talks about,
Avengers. Yeah.
Avengers.
Rob.
I always go back to that one scene in the Avengers where she is cowering and crying at a point in the helicarrier
After the Hulk knocks her to the side.
And I don't understand that scene because it just doesn't seem characteristic of her.
I think, and I do agree, I really do, because it is a very strange scene. I think really for her it's the shock of something that's just so out of... Because at this point, it literally had been my partner's a guy with a bow and arrow, and we just kill people. Like that's what we do. I think for her, everything was a lot more grounded, and seeing the Hulk for the first time, like basically this guy turned into a giant green rage monster. I don't think she was prepared for it. It was more shock than anything else.
I just don't think she would have that kind of reaction, though.
I don't either, but I think...
Yeah, I could give it her... Avengers, as much as I love Avengers, her role in it, I could take it or leave it.
Even the Loki scene?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I do love the fight scene with her and brainwashed Clint Barton in that. It's grounded. It's gritty.
Yeah.
There's the one shot where she like locks up his arm and he's like, oh, and he throws the knife up and catches it with the like. It's just a really cool fight scene because they're quote unquote normal people in this world of superheroes. Apparently, she's invincible by the time we get to Black Widow, but we'll talk about that. So moving on, arguably Sean's favorite MCU movie.
It is my favorite MCU
It
movie.
is his. It's not even arguably. It is. What is it called again? Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Captain America.
The Winter Soldier. I will say this is my favorite performance from her.
Agreed.
Because you honestly never know what side she's on.
The character really, as you just said, I mean, she performed the role in a way like you have no idea what side, who she's working for, what her, purpose is in terms of, what is she going to do. The character changed. I mean, like, she was not like that in Avengers. Like, it's like something happened between Avengers and Winter Soldier. She became much more... Cold, yeah.
I think this was... In Avengers, she was an actual Avenger.
Yeah.
In this, she was back to being the spy/assassin. She's doing secret missions while doing a secret mission. Yeah. So I really do enjoy her in this movie, and I think it's the best look into her. Rob?
I like it for a different reason, and that's because of the small moments she and Steve Rogers have together of just talking and being human. Like, it made me appreciate her as a person beyond the assassin role.
Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff have one of the best relationships in the MCU. And
it's also Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson.
They're very good friends in real life.
Very good friends in real life, so it really comes off on the screen.
And two of the most beautiful people, I think, in existence.
Now, it's funny you say that because it's very easy, especially in movies and TV shows, that they're very attractive, and they have good chemistry. Let's make them a couple. No, we're going to give her Bruce Banner. I do love that Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff never have any actual sexual tension. They're never forced together.
Except for that one kiss.
Which was all part of a cover, though. And, like, they joke about it afterwards. I really enjoy that, especially when we get to Civil War, which makes her defection and leading into Black Widow make even more sense.
Well, I love the scene on the roof when they kick the guy off the roof, and she's just like, what's her name? What do you think about her?
Lily. Oh, yeah. The one in accounting?
Yeah, I don't
got
know
the
about
nose
that.
piercing. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
The two of them just work so well off each other.
As that man's plummeting to his death. But she's great in it. The movie itself is great. I think she does well as a supporting actress, but she also can carry her own film, which we will talk about. Moving forward, we have Age of Ultron, where really she's just there to be a love interest to Bruce Banner.
Ultron.
That was just weird.
We do get glimpses of her training in the Red Room when Wanda kind of whammies her. We do find out that she's also sterile as part of her initiation process into the Red Room. And so we learn a little bit more. This movie is a lot of learning about some of those characters that didn't have their own movies to shine. We learn a lot about Hawkeye to the point where we actually sat in the theater going, oh, they're going to kill him. They told us too much about him. He's got a loving family at home. He's going to die. But we did learn a lot about, Hawkeye and Black Widow, but not enough. Like, they're really... The movie for Black Widow should have happened after this movie.
Well, I was going to get to that later on. I feel like they should have done this movie years ago.
All right, I got a theory.
Oh, hit it.
I think they had it ready to go. I think they had the script, and they were like, all right, here comes our it's all going to be about her and growing up in the, the training and everything. And then Red Sparrow came out. Are you familiar with that movie?
I remember that movie, yes.
And I think when let's see, I have it. 2018 is when it came out.
With Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, and I think that movie came out, and they went, okay, we're going to rewrite the script now.
I remember when that movie came out, I was just like, is that a Black Widow wannabe movie?
It really was.
What is this?
I didn't see it, but from what I've heard, it could have been a Black Widow movie.
There's always been a conception, and it's not necessarily a true conception, that movies, especially comic book movies led by a female, were not as popular and or successful. There was some precedent, but I also think that was more just crappy female-led movies first. Or, it wasn't until Wonder Woman really hit that they showed that not only can a female-led superhero film do well, but also it could be directed by a woman. It could, have a very strong female icon that doesn't, that shows women what they can be and, or what they can strive to be.
I will say this, though. I still think it's kind of a bummer we got a Captain Marvel film before we got a Black Widow film.
There was definitely...
just...
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, go ahead, because
I agree, Sean. I think that Black Widow should have gotten the first female-led.
Before Wonder Woman, before this, obviously, I mean, I'm trying to remember what the first female-led superhero movie was.
I'm bringing up some of them now.
You had movies like Elektra.
Catwoman.
Catwoman.
Supergirl.
Yes, with
1984. Tank Girl.
I remember Tank Girl.
Elektra, yeah.
Yeah, the pickings were slim. Blood Rain, which was a video game superhero kind of movie. Yeah, the pickings were slim. So it was
and they weren't good. Like, no. and they misattributed their lack of success to the women, which is not fair.
No, it's
it
always
was because
lack of
those
the script.
movies sucked.
Yeah, it's script, it's the directing, it's all of it. It's not just the actress or whoever.
I would have loved to see a Black Widow Hawkeye movie. That we're going to talk about that when we talk about Black Widow, but yeah.
To say that Catwoman didn't do well because it was led by a woman is like when you take a frog, cut off all of its legs, and then tell it to jump. Your conclusion is that when you cut the legs off, frog goes deaf.
Yeah.
It's just not an accurate conclusion.
That was a good analogy.
Thank you.
It was graphic, too. So we have, moving on, Civil War, which another great Natasha. One of her best scenes is with Steve in the funeral. Like like we said before, it really just kind of solidifies.
Peggy's funeral,
yeah, it just solidifies where they are, and even though they're on different sides of this situation, they're still close, and she'll always be there for him. And then obviously she does assault the king of Wakanda for him. Any thoughts on Natasha in Civil War? Otherwise,
I mean, just again, you see her struggle with being on the one side. She agrees with the side she's on. She understands Tony's point of view. She understands Steve Rogers' point of view, but you can see it in her that she's doesn't want this to happen, especially with Hawkeye on the other side too, because they're like best friends.
She didn't know Hawkeye was recruited until they got there. We're still friends, right? Depends on how hard you hit me. Yeah. Oh.
So I mean, again, it's that she's believes in this one side, but she's also going to look at it in another direction as well.
I'm sitting here, because you keep going through these movies, and I'm trying to think, like, I don't really remember her doing much with these movies, and I'm trying to figure out why, and I think I figured out why. Because to me, Black Widow and please don't take this the wrong way. Listen to my whole explanation first, audience, before you jump to any conclusions.
I'm offended already.
To me, Black Widow has always been just background token woman eye candy. And that, I think, is, and I'm trying to figure out, well, why? Why is that the case? And I think because she was started out like that in Iron Man 2, and I just never really saw her as anything. Like, I think because Marvel didn't really take the time to give her any, like, she's always just been supporting. Yes, I will say that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, she does get some great meaty roles and time there.
Captain America.
Whatever.
I did on Multiverse Fan Cast like 12 times.
And other than in that movie, I feel like she's just been there just because they're like, well, we have to have a female in here, so we'll just put Black Widow in.
So
and I think that's a crime against the character.
So there's one piece of evidence that I'm going to give that supports what Rob just said.
Okay.
Look at her costume from when she first started to the Black Widow movie. In this new Black Widow movie, and not to spoil anything, if you've seen any promotional photos, the cleavage is pretty much gone. There are no gratuitous shots of her butt. Like, when you watch especially Avengers with skeevy Joss Whedon now, there's a lot of over-sexualization. Iron Man 2 especially, but Avengers also. And her costume was never exactly practical, but that was also comic book costumes. They were designed by men for teenage boys. So it's nice that in Black Widow, there's a severe lack of sexualization. They make fun of her hair flips. So
part of that is because it's directed by a woman.
Yeah. And some very on point, creepy Me Too type vibes.
Is this the first Marvel movie directed by a female?
I don't think so, but don't quote me on that. I would have to double check.
Of the MCU or just of the MCU.
Captain Marvel might have been.
I think it might have been, but while we check that, we'll keep moving on
to the
internet. But while we do that, we'll keep moving on because we have coming up was Infinity War and Endgame. Infinity War, she was just kind of there.
Well, yeah, because she is gone and she has joined Steve Rogers and Sam. So because they have that great appearance when they save Wanda and Vision. So between Civil War's ending and the beginning of Infinity War, she has now decided to join Steve Rogers.
They should make a movie of that.
Yeah, they should. And then in Endgame, obviously after the blip, she's sort of taken over as the head of
the Avengers.
So she's kind of leading everything
and
from
just trying to keep it together. And
and you sense it. I think after watching this movie, there's a fan theory out there that we'll get into a little later about did someone she know from this movie disappear in the blip, and that kind of adds to her, her fire in Endgame, or her decision to sacrifice herself in Endgame. So that's an interesting take, but
still one of the best scenes because we did not know who was actually going to die.
No, we didn't.
You watch that scene, you're like,
well, let me rephrase that. Honest to God, I thought Jeremy Renner was going to die.
So did I.
I really did. I was actually
because he seemed the most expendable.
And this is not. I don't take this the wrong way. I applauded it when she died in terms of wow. Okay, that's a ballsy move.
And also the great parallels between Thanos literally forcing his daughter to her death, as opposed to Hawkeye and Black Widow actually trying to kill.
Well, they're trying to stop each other and to kill themselves, and you see the pain on his face as he lets her go, and I was shocked. Marvel went. I was shocked that she was the one that died. Yeah. I really kind of was, because everybody thought Captain America was going to die.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't.
But that was everybody walked into that movie going like, Steve Rogers is going to die.
Well, he's actually on a base on the moon. Didn't you hear?
Really?
Didn't you hear that rumor? Rob, any thoughts on Endgame, Black Widow?
It was then when she was leading the Avengers in all of the planning and doing all the Zoom calling and everything. That was when I finally was like, okay, she's a major part of this organization now. It wasn't until then where I felt like she was given responsibility, that she was mostly supporting up to that point. So it was nice to see her finally doing that, but I think that took way too long.
I agree. So with that is the history of Black Widow in the MCU. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to jump right into the Black Widow film. But first, a quick break. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Raze Energy Drinks. Raze is a proud member of Rep Sports, and if you guys are looking for a little extra kick during your day, whether you need to tackle a workout or you need to get over that afternoon slump, you can always check out Raze Energy, and if you get to checkout and you enter the code CINEMATIC, not only will you be getting a 15% discount, but you'll also be supporting the network. So that's Raze Energy with Rep Sports. Code is CINEMATIC, CINEMATIC. All right, we are back, and we are jumping right into Black Widow. Now, before we get started, initial thoughts, Sean.
Initial thoughts by me. It was a typical Marvel movie. Enjoyable. I did not have any major, annoyances with it. It kind of felt like Marvel's attempt at a James Bond film. You had your over-the-top Bond villain that, just was kind of ridiculous and had a really kind of lackluster death. You had a, Russian spy that it just had that Bond-esque feeling to it. But it just felt so out of place because it takes place with movies that were made 5 years ago. That was my only kind of... It's like this movie really should have been made back when it actually takes place, because I think it would have had a much bigger effect than it does now. Also, the fact is, she's dead. It just something was taken away from the movie, going like she's dead. Like, unless they're gonna pull oh, she really didn't die, which I'll give them credit, they didn't do.
Oh god, I would have been pissed.
I'll give them credit. When she whistled at the end of that movie, I was like,
spoilers, by the way.
If she whistles back, I'm gonna be like, really, guys, you really went this way? But they didn't. So that was it for me. I liked the movie, but it just it felt out of place and just should have been done years ago.
Rob?
No, I know what you're expecting.
You know what? After watching this movie, I'm gonna leave my expectations completely neutral. I knew it. Sorry.
When I was watching it, it was for me it was a lot of spectacle, a lot of big action sequences that I thought that were pretty well done. I liked actually the smaller action sequences, like between her and Taskmaster on the bridge. I thought that was good.
Her and her sister in the safe house. I like that.
I don't
one.
understand why they were fighting, so that one was weird for me. I will say that after I watched it, I immediately forgot about it, and last night I couldn't recall too much from it, and I didn't feel like I had learned anything from it or anything had gone forward in advancing anything plot-wise. I thought it was a tremendous amount of junk food. It was just empty calories.
It's funny. So, full disclosure for those of you guys who don't know, we actually have two podcasts on our network. We have Cinematic Adventures and the Multiverse Fan Cast. Yeah, you've been on it.
Oh, really?
The Multiverse Fan
Wait,
Cast.
there's another one of these?
Yeah, that's like you co-host.
Oh, that's mine. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yours kind of unofficially, but
I think it's official by now.
So
Smorgasbord.
We added that.
Yes.
We put in a smorgasbord for you. So, having said that, Rob and Sean both had not heard our Multiverse Fan Cast episode. No. So they have no clue what Ronnie and I discussed yesterday.
None.
Now, having said that, it's very interesting that we're all kind of on the same page.
Okay.
I said that this movie was exceptionally forgettable, which is a shame. Yeah. It is a shame for such a great character, a character that we've really grown to love. They should have made this a prequel, and it should have just been Black Widow, Budapest. And it should have been the story of how she stopped being a trained assassin.
I agree with that. I very much agree with that.
Well,
and then because also it would have given us a chance to keep guessing, because this movie it takes place between Civil War, where we kind of already knew what she was gonna do,
right,
and Infinity War, where we knew where she was. Really, what could happen so much in that time span that would blow our minds? Nothing in this movie, like Rob said, nothing in this movie made a difference.
No.
It just set up the Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I will say, I did like the scenes of... I will say, like, for the first 45 minutes, I was actually really into it. I liked the scenes of her living off the grid in her little, double wide. And I thought that was kind of... It put a different lens on the character and reconceptualized my approach to it. And I thought that was neat. Then when I think I started losing it when they got into the whole main bad guy plot. I think I was just like...
Well, that I agree. When that whole the pheromones explanation came in, I was just like, wow, you guys aren't even trying. But I will say this. I liked the beginning. I liked that whole Russian spies, in America, the family next door,
very much like the Americans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a movie like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have seen what happens to the two girls after they're, knocked unconscious.
And not a
shot.
montage of photos.
Still one of the best opening credits to a Marvel movie.
I got to think about that.
Because there's none other that really jump out. Incredible Hulk's good. I like the Incredible Hulk one where they kind of do the backstory of how he became the Hulk.
Well, they usually don't do any opening
that's
credits.
The thing. So I like a good series of opening credits.
That's why, again, I felt like it was a Bond film.
Yeah.
Now, having said that...
And they even have her watching Goldfinger?
No, it was Roger Moore, so I think it was like Live and Let Die or...
Well, Jaws was in it, so...
which one is
Come on,
that?
you got
Spy
this
Who
one.
Loved Me.
Yeah, there it is.
Spy Who Loved Me, then, yeah.
Yeah.
It's either that or Moonraker.
This movie, the problem it really has is they played it safe. They played it exceptionally safe.
Which is shocking for me because you would think by now Marvel's like we don't need to play it safe.
Unfortunately,
isn't the whole point? Phase 4 is they're like, we're not playing it safe anymore.
Here's the issue, and they even bring it up in this movie, which was a far more interesting point. Some of the most interesting points happen when her and her sister, played by
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh. All right, so
I thought she was good.
She was fantastic.
She was great.
I'm looking forward to seeing her.
I want to see more of her.
I'm a big fan of hers. If you haven't seen,
she's gonna be in Hawkeye.
She's gonna be in Hawkeye.
Have you seen Midsommar?
No.
Oh my God, she's amazing in
I've
Midsommar.
heard.
I Florence Pugh, and she's also in Little Women, and I think she was nominated for an Oscar for that one too. She's an amazing actress. She's really interesting, and she has this really, really raspy voice, which is as a result of she had some sort of medical issue with her throat too, which caused that. And it actually, because she's also a singer and songwriter too.
Oh, good for her.
I think she's amazing, and I loved every moment Florence Pugh was on screen.
Yeah, she
was a highlight for me.
She and Harbour really stole the show.
I liked David Harbour's just great.
But going back to what I was saying was, they bring it up. There's a scene where she's talking. It's right after she makes fun of her for all of her poses with the hair flips.
Yes.
Which
I thought was very funny.
Oh,
but
very
then
funny.
They killed that joke.
Yeah. And then what happened was they followed with a very poignant moment where she's like, we're both assassins. The only difference is you're on the cover of magazines and little girls want to be you. They could have done so much more. They were too afraid to sully Black Widow's character by showing that she killed people. Her last mission to be part of S.H.I.E.L.D. was to assassinate someone. And then she ended up supposedly killing a little girl in that process.
And that was the worst kept secret in the world, that was going to be the daughter.
I was so mad, though. Well,
you know how I know? Because of the actress playing the character. I was like, we haven't seen her.
Olga Kurylenko.
Yeah.
I didn't put that together, but I did. There was, when I saw Taskmaster walking on the bridge, there was something about the way she was walking. I'm like, I think that's a female in there.
Because you knew it wasn't David Harbour because he was thin. Yeah. And David Harbour, like, the whole joke in the trailer is he's gained too much weight.
Can we just all say how much we relate to him trying to put on his super suit and just having so much trouble? I think we've all been there.
Can we all just say how useless Rachel Weisz was in this movie?
Can we all just say how I thought that the super suit thing was already done well in The Incredibles?
That is funny, but I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, Rachel
Weisz I thought was wasted.
She's a great actress, but
she's
an
Oscar winner.
Nothing to do in this movie.
They should have stuck,
except have bad eyebrows.
They should have stuck with her actually giving up the girls. They should have made her the bad guy.
I was waiting for it, and then it was like, oh, okay, they're going this way.
They do it, and you're sitting there going, oh man, did Rachel Weisz really just give them up? Because you could see, when she almost kills the pig. Like that was hard to watch. That
I had problems with.
Yeah. So when it seems like she actually portrayed them, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Now we're getting a little, but then it turns out she didn't. I'm like, oh,
all right.
Again, playing it safe.
Here's my two main gripes with the film. The first is the director. I looked up to see what else she's done, and she hasn't done anything notable. Now, I know that Marvel has a history of plucking like small directors and putting them into the big time. However, those small directors also proved themselves with good small movies. Taika Waititi did, Hunt for the Wilder People and a few other.
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. John Watts did Cop Car. Chloe Zhao did Nomadland and the one with the horses that I can never remember the title.
I don't remember either.
But I've seen them, and all three of them are strong tonally and with atmosphere. And what is her name? Kate Shortland?
Kate Shortland.
Yes.
Kate Shortland. Like, I'm looking at her other movies. Like, I've heard of Smilf. I've never seen it.
I've seen it on Showtime.
Yeah, is it? Okay.
It's a show, yeah.
Like Berlin Syndrome, Lore, Somersault. None of these are anything that have garnered any kind of attention. So I don't know why they would give her Black Widow to do, because I got to be honest, she seems like, from watching Black Widow, she's a capable director. It was done fine. It's a fine movie. But in terms of like thematic depth, callbacks to things, character arcs.
I think they were going for their Patty Jenkins there.
Yeah,
they were. That's what they were hoping for. They were trying to.
So it just was blah.
And at the end of the movie, nothing's changed.
No.
Nothing. You don't.
No.
We haven't learned more about Natasha. We've not seen her quote unquote family since. And it's not even like at the end of the film she was like, "Well, I fixed one broken family. Now I have to fix this other broken family." They kind of say that, but they don't do a good job saying it. Yeah. Just suddenly she's blonde, and it's 2 weeks later, and we don't even see how she escapes from Ross.
No.
Like that was a weird transition.
I'm looking at the writer too. The writer is Eric Pearson. And he's got some good things on here. You know, he had a hand in writing Ragnarok, but again, that was probably mostly Taika Waititi. He wrote Godzilla vs. Kong,
which Sean and I do enjoy.
You enjoyed. The script's not.
It's a fine movie.
It is a fine movie.
It's a fine movie, but that's not the movie where the screenwriting is what you look at.
Big monkey fight big lizard.
Right.
Yay.
Yeah. It's the same thing as having a little kid in his sandbox with one of each of them and going smash, smash, smash with them.
and that's all I wanted.
But there's nothing like the action set pieces were fun. They were great. I really enjoyed them, but I felt like that was all the movie had.
I did find the last action set piece of the thing falling down exceptionally forgettable.
Yeah,
this movie would have benefited so this is why I brought up the hallway fight scene. Mm-hmm. Imagine if they had done an homage to that, where Black Widow's fighting off all those Black Widows, because that's a powerful scene when they all start beating the crap out of her, but she's fine because she's superhuman, even though they'd make a point to talk about Thor not needing to take ibuprofen after a fight, which I thought was really funny, but then they're both god level powered. I would have loved it if they'd done a similar thing to the hallway fight scene where Black Widow's losing against all those other Black Widows, and her sister comes and helps her, and the two of them fight together. They lost a big moment in that, I thought. Instead, gas grenades. It fixed it.
I think I could agree with you with that last set piece being forgettable, because the CGI was fine. I didn't have a problem with that, but there were so many moments where you didn't have a sense of where you were and where people were in this, that things were happening. And let me give you an example. I think John Wick and movies like that kind of changed the landscape for action films, because it's a lot more choreography instead of just, you cut as soon as they throw the punch and then we'll fix that in post and edit it in. I watched another movie the other day. Have you guys seen the movie Nobody?
Oh, yeah, with Bob Odenkirk.
That was fantastic.
It was good.
And it was... And again, benefited from that choreography, that where everyone is at every given moment, how they're interacting, where they're sitting when someone gets knocked down and how they're going to get back up. Whereas with this movie, that's why I liked the bridge scene, because I knew where the two of them were and how they were doing it. I will even give you the scene in the apartment between the two sisters, although I didn't know why they were fighting so badly. At least it was well choreographed and I could see things, but there were some where I'm like, I don't know where anyone is.
Yeah, I think this movie would have really benefited from more of an espionage type thriller, and with much more choreographed close quarters fighting, as opposed to big. Unfortunately, and this isn't a jab, but they went full Marvel on it.
Yeah,
for a character that doesn't necessarily need. The problem is, you look at a movie like Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier's very close combat until the last action set piece. You can argue, but even that ends up with just very close, and it's Valken who's really doing the spectacle in that.
Even the Ant-Man movies are like that too, where it's a lot more
personable.
It's a smaller story, and that's good. We need those.
I would have even liked to see Natasha really struggling with, I don't want to hurt any of these people. They're all mind controlled, but they're going to kill me, type thing. And then they play fast and loose with the pheromone thing too, where technically, what's the sister's name? Yelena.
Yeah.
She's able to kill the bad guy just because she can't smell him because he's in the actual carrier, but she's able to kill him by dropping the thing into the turbine so it explodes.
All right, so she can't. All right, hold on. Go back to the pheromone thing. Help me understand this.
All widows. They say that all widows, besides whatever psychological. So Natasha's generation was the last that just got psychological conditioning, where it was a lot of just brainwashing. That's why she was able to overcome it. All generations of widow though had a fail-safe where if they could smell his pheromones, they could not do any physical harm to him. That's why she had to have him break her nose.
So that's how she stops with the pheromones, is by breaking her nose.
Because she can't smell them anymore.
I don't think that's how pheromones work.
That's not how pheromones work. That's not how science works. It was interesting, and when she breaks her own nose, that was pretty badass. I'll give her that. especially when she starts making fun of him. Like, you really couldn't hit hard enough. Like, come on, guy. I thought it was
That was also a letdown for Ray Winstone because I was hoping he would, give a little more to the movie.
The villains were so forgettable.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why I did not like the Taskmaster reveal.
Best work since the 4th Indiana Jones.
I would have much rather preferred if Taskmaster, after getting like the dust sprayed in her face, was like, I'm still gonna kill it. You blew me up. Like, I thought that would have been a much more interesting, because I was not a big fan of the Taskmaster twist. Marvel twists are very hit or miss. They're 50-50 at this point. Boner.
Agatha all along.
It was. See, that one worked, but we all saw it coming.
Yeah.
But boner. And
I wrote about that too with my Loki season 5 thing here about how everyone calm down with having a big villain reveal in this last episode because it hasn't happened.
Mephisto. We all know it's Mephisto.
It hasn't happened in any of the. It's probably someone that we've already known.
Yeah. So I was disappointed. Maybe I set expectations high, but
I think I walked into this movie kind of just saying, I just don't think this is going to be any real amazing film. I just think it's going to be, typical.
A good roller coaster.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't.
Popcorn
again,
film.
Unless they were going to somehow bring her back to life, I could not imagine any way this movie was going to end where I was going to be like.
Cheapest cop out if
wow.
they did.
I will say also, it added so little to Marvel lore.
Yeah. Unless they're going to do a Red Guardian movie, and obviously they have Florence Pugh coming back for Hawkeye, and now we're kind of getting an idea, because we knew nothing about Hawkeye. It was very hush-hush, just that Kate Bishop was going to be in it. So it's nice to see that this is kind of what they're going to be doing. That's an interesting concept.
I think they did well with her character, Yelena.
Yelena and Alexei.
Like, I'm very excited to have Florence Pugh in this, into the Marvel universe. I think, again, she's amazing.
Could she be like the Black Widow?
That's what I'm thinking.
In the comics, she did take on the mantle of Black Widow, yes.
That kind of sets it up that she's going to be the new Black Widow.
Which I'm fine with. They need to create a new Avengers team.
I got to say, though, Red Guardian, I thought was very two-dimensional. Like, he was just comic relief for me.
I agree. I loved him still because again, anything David Harbour does, I like. But I agree with you that he was the comic relief.
Yeah, he was
basically of the movie.
Funny U.S. agent.
But I would have liked to have seen more of him in the flashback when he's like, at his prime. I want to see how what did he do to get put into jail.
Why is he still staying there? Superpowers.
Guy's, still all this strength, power, and he's still somehow in jail.
So here's how I looked at David Harbour's Red Guardian, and I made a snide comment to Rob that he's basically a lot like U.S. Agent. Mm-hmm. He was put on this pedestal. He was supposed to be Russia's Captain America, and I love the jokes about him fighting Captain America. He's like, that was '83. He was still frozen. Oh, you calling me liar? Snap. He was put on this pedestal like, you are going to be if you've ever read Superman Red Son, which is a fantastic story. It's like a what if story if Superman landed in Soviet Russia instead. So basically Red Guardian was like, you're going to be Captain America, like our Captain America, that you're going to be the symbol of our country, thrown in jail, tossed aside. He's what would have happened if Captain America, if like the Allies lost World War II. Captain America could have gone down a similar road, locked away in a prison somewhere. I don't think he'd be such comedic relief because Steve Rogers, he'd be the one like reforming all the prisoners inside the jail, like holding sermons and stuff like that. But Red Guardian was a way more interesting character, but they did, unfortunately, and this is a thing that Marvel tends to do. Like we did it with Thor in Endgame. They went too funny with a character that could have been really emotionally deep.
The whole thing was just like, oh, he's overweight and he drinks, and like that's the entire depth of him.
And he's socially awkward.
Yeah,
he was Thor.
I did enjoy the scene where the four of them are sitting at the table, and you could see on Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson's face, they're like, you were our parents. Like this was real to us.
More so for Yelena.
Well, yes, but
but
Scarlett Johansson reveals at the end that it was real for me too. Mm-hmm. She just hit it more. But I liked that aspect of it where it's like we were your children. You just let us be taken away and made into these spy super spy weapons. And just that throwaway line in the helicopter where she's just like, "Oh, I'm sterile." And they just start describing what they did to them. And David Harbour's just like,
okay, I get it.
And I'm like, that's your reaction?
Yeah.
Because for him, it wasn't wrong. And that's
what I'm saying. It's, again, I think they missed the boat. Like,
It's
they
not
could
a
have really
human
gone
reaction.
deep into this
agreed.
movie. Where it's like, wow, I really messed up here. Like, this is something that I should look back, but David Harbour's just like...
Anytime they do, it's for comedic effect.
I know. Yeah. And he's still in his world where,
you don't have a comm in your ear. Oh.
I feel like that this script needed, and this is my second complaint, because the first one is the director. This script needed a script doctor.
Yeah.
It needed someone to come in and say, all right, we're tonally not achieving very much here. We need you to come in and doctor it and give it something else. Because there were so many like missed opportunities or moments where something was introduced but it wasn't developed enough. Like I think there is a family thing happening in there and the role of family, but it was so casual and just kind of tossed in by someone.
Just blah. There was no, Rachel Weisz there was no emotion.
No.
David Harbour, there was nothing there. It just. You felt horrible for the two for Natasha
girls,
and for Yelena. I mean, like you can't describe what they've been through, and I just would have liked to have seen a little more of that side of it.
I would wish they had played up more of the Florence Pugh Yelena character living in the shadow of Black Widow. I think they introduced it and it was there, but I really would have liked to have seen that developed and have the two of them grapple with it a lot.
Or even Rachel Weisz, she said she went through the Red Room 4 times. Like these are I'm telling you, the better story would have been a prequel of Natasha going from the Black Widow organization to S.H.I.E.L.D. You even have like David Harbour's Red Guardian as Dreykov's bodyguard. And she's like, that was the guy who played my dad.
Well, how old would she have to be in the movie to have that movie play?
It's right before... I mean, we don't know how long she's been in S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
They flash back to her.
And she's young. She looks young.
They could have made her look,
Because she would have had to have been like 18 for that movie, right?
I don't know if they ever really...
I don't know if you could do that.
You de-age Samuel L. Jackson again, and you see him trying to get her into S.H.I.E.L.D. You get Jeremy Renner involved, and they have the whatever happens in Budapest.
But I did like tic-tac-toe in the vents. Like stuff like that.
That was a neat little thing.
I would have liked to see more between David Harbour and Florence Pugh, but I did like that scene in the bedroom where he starts to sing American Pie to her, and she kind of, starts crying.
I liked it, but it just seemed tacked on. I think they should have developed it.
Developed more, but again, I liked the opening scene because I thought that was a good opening. I would like to have seen a little more of that.
Oh, the first 45 minutes for me were promising.
And it just became so predictable. Mm-hmm. And that's the sad thing about a lot of the Marvel movies. They're predictable. I mean, there's a few that really kind of throw you on your backside.
I would say Winter Soldier's a good example.
Winter Soldier,
Infinity War with the snap, Endgame.
Endgame with just who's not going to make it.
Yeah,
I mean that was the key there. I mean,
and just fun surprises.
Yeah,
but this was a very Captain Marvel.
All right, hold on. Let's take a lesser one. How about say Spider-Man: Far From Home? So, I will argue that film is very rich because it's all about him losing the father figure of Tony Stark and having to deal with that and become the hero that he wants to be without a mentor looking over him, knowing that the audience knowing that he's already lost Ben and now he's lost this person. So I would argue that even that movie it's slightly predictable, but it is
similar
also
beats. Very similar beats.
But it's also thematically rich, whereas this one doesn't have that.
Yeah. And like and the problem is this movie has no stakes. We know where it's going to go. We know how it has to go.
I know she's not going to die because I already saw her die.
Just her hair, but
And then from everyone that Julie Louis-Dreyfus was going to make an appearance. So
I did not.
Oh, you did not?
No, I had no clue.
This was actually supposed to be her first.
Yes, I did not know that. So when she came in, I actually was like, all right, that's really cool.
I want to see this Dark Avengers team that they're really starting to tee up. Her, U.S. Agent, I think there's a couple of others they're talking about. I really want to see an Avengers versus Dark Avengers.
I'm looking forward to the Hawkeye show, actually. I'm looking more forward to that than I am the Loki show. I haven't even watched it yet.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What?
We'll discuss it because we do have a
All right.
Loki episode on the
Coming
horizon.
up, yes.
With the last episode, but I think we're gonna wrap it
think we
up
are, yeah.
with some Star City ratings. Sean,
2.5.
2.5, completely average movie.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I would say 2.5 is way less than average.
No, out of 5.
Out of
It's
5.
right in the middle.
Yeah.
It's an average movie. 2 out of.
But out of 10, now you're looking at a 5.
Oh, out of 10, if we were doing 10,
Yeah.
I'd say definitely like a 5. I can watch this movie again.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Unlike
not horrible.
Justice League.
No, sorry.
All right, let me ask you this, Sean. Which do you appreciate more, Justice League or this?
I think they're 2 totally different movies.
Because I gotta say, for me, I might enjoy
2 totally
Black
different
Widow
movies.
more, but I actually appreciate Justice League
Yeah,
more.
2 totally different movies. Like, if just for shit, for giggles, I could watch this movie just, for 2 hours of, action.
Yeah.
Justice League, is an event because you gotta, take 5 hours out of your life
You
to
need to,
sit down and watch it.
Just 4.
Pack a
But,
bag and then lunch.
But there's parts of Justice League that are really good that I can.
The last hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Because it's close to the credits.
But 2 totally different. I couldn't compare the 2 to me. That they're not even.
See, for me, I was thinking about this last night, that for me, I would never watch Justice League again. But at least I appreciate what they were doing. I appreciate that they're trying to do some complex things, whereas this is just kind of cookie cutterish and not
It's a
complex
popcorn
at
flick.
all.
Yeah, it's
but it is rewatchable.
Yes, I agree.
So what's your Star City rating?
I would say 3.5 because it's good enough. It's good. It's fine. It's a B+ movie for me.
It's a movie you can recommend to people and to say,
Yeah.
hey, you'll have a good time watching
But
it.
Say don't check your brain out, but it'll be and you'll enjoy it.
But you know what my problem is for Black Widow? It shouldn't be. It's okay.
No,
It
agreed.
should be.
I
should have
agree
been
with
so
you,
much more, so-
but it's still like tolerable. It's. I'm not gonna say never watch this movie, but if you are a true fan of the MCU, like all of us are,
You'll see it.
you'll
watch
see
it. You'll enjoy it.
but you'll understand where we're coming from.
It's-
That it's a rewatchable movie, but it doesn't add anything to the MCU. It doesn't blow you away in any way, and it really doesn't change anything. Because again, she died.
It's slightly above Iron Man 2 for me.
For me, this movie is. I gave it a 3 in Multiverse Fan Cast. As far as plot goes, it's definitely a 2.5, but it's
Right.
saved by great performances, some very nice emotional moments, and unfortunately, and we've talked about this in some of our other films on both podcasts, there's so much potential that it just doesn't live up to. Had it hit that potential, this movie could have easily been a 4.
Which is a shame, because I mean,
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen this movie hit its potential, because she's such an underused character, as we've expressed in this entire podcast. And I feel like she still got the short end of the stick in this movie in a way, like because it just was like.
This
Yeah,
movie
I've-
was very Iron Man 2, where they used the main character to set up the next steps.
I mean, I hate to say it, the Florence Pugh character was more interesting than Natasha was, because again, there was nothing different about the character. There was nothing added to the character, you know.
And also,
she still felt like a supporting character.
And Yelena was more complex. She was literally still killing people 37 minutes ago. Like,
well, that was the thing. In the beginning, she's released by the pheromone, whatever,
the antidote gas, yeah.
But the character was just much more better written, in my opinion, in this, because she just had more to do. I mean, this is a woman who was literally like killing people, as you just said, 5 seconds ago, and then all of a sudden it's like
her whole world's upside down.
I'm gonna reunite with my sister and my parents, and bring down this guy who's been brainwashing us. Yeah. But
But we would love to hear what you guys have to say. The easiest way to find us is on Facebook at Cinematic Adventures. You can also find us at themisfitfaction.com. There you'll find links to both of our podcasts, as well as links to other content like Rob's reviews on the Misfit Corner. You'll find reviews for all the Marvel shows thus far, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and more recently Loki. You can also find us on Instagram, The Misfit Faction, on YouTube, The Misfit Faction Media Network, and on Twitter at Misfit Faction. All those ways are great for getting in touch with us and talking to us and communicating with us. We had a lot of great feedback on our Fast 9 Cars in Space episode, which is leading to our Fast 9,
our Fast and Furious saga franchise
retro review.
I'll have to hear this because I have never seen one of those movies.
Well, we do we do
worth
recommend
watching.
which ones you should watch, but we want to thank Rob from Multiverse Fan Cast for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just
it's all Ronnie's fault.
It's just scheduling, unfortunately. When the movies come out on a Friday, because normally Fridays are our recording days. If a movie comes out on a Friday, we usually have to push our recording, and that just sometimes plays havoc with some people who have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sean.
Hey, what? I didn't.
I think
He's a
about
working
you too.
man, unlike
I think about you
the
too.
rest of us.
All right. But so that's going to wrap us up for tonight. As always, I'm Paul.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Rob.
And we will be back next week with The Fast and the Furious.
See ya! In space.